This is part 2, episode 55. Dubuzi was very depressed right now. He had never expected things to go this badly. They were fully prepared for this sneak attack, and had even practiced it countless times. It was supposed to be flawless. But who knew that the sealed 100,000-year soul beast embryo would escape, and be so powerful? Neither the body sect, or illustrious virtue hall dared to use their most destructive weapons to attack. If the place collapsed, no one would survive. But the soul beast embryo was too difficult to deal with. Its body temperature was too low. It was both Dubuzi and Jing Hongchen's first time seeing something like this. Its ultimate ice managed to neutralize all their attacks. Even Dubuzi's notoriously lethal poison couldn't penetrate the frozen gas. In addition, Dubuzi had to be wary of Jing Hongchen even when he dealt with the soul beast embryo. While the two of them seemed to be teaming up, the suspended battle would erupt again once the soul beast embryo appeared to be on the verge of caving in. The Snow Empress body was covered by a layer of frozen gas. This layer of frozen gas was in a ball shape with a diameter of 2 meters. However, this ball of frozen gas could even freeze light, and was the Snow Empress' best protection. Jing Hongchen laughed coldly and gestured with his right hand. The soul engineers from Illustrious Virtue Hall immediately launched a ferocious attack against the body sect. The rainbow that had struck the ball of gas disappeared. However, something small was now floating in mid-air, looking like a crystal ball. It was very smooth and bright, and had many holes in it. A magical scarlet red light flashed up inside it at this point. A deafening hum suddenly shook the air. Even Dubuzi stiffened up when he heard this hum. Following this, a thin streak of red light shot out from the scarlet red crystal ball. This red light engulfed the dark green light that had restrained the ball of gas. Dubuzi's soul power was quickly dissipated by that ray of scarlet light. The Snow Empress was freed before Dubuzi could drag her away. Dubuzi was enraged. Just as he was about to pull himself together, an indescribable sense of crisis suddenly swept over him. At the ultimate Doluor level, one was almost godly. An ultimate Doluor was extremely perceptive, and even had the ability to predict the future. Dubuzi didn't hesitate, and quickly let go of the idea of taking the Snow Empress. His figure flashed, and he returned to the ground. A dark green light supported his body, and blocked off the attacks from the Illustrious Virtue Hall Soul Engineers. It also extended out to protect all the body sect members. A desolate voice echoed throughout the entire place, overshadowing all other sounds. In the air, the frozen ball of gas was still rigid as it was covered by the red light. Despicable humans. All of you will pay the price for hunting soul beasts one day. Even if I die, I won't fulfill your greed. All of you can go and die. When she reached the end of her words, the Snow Empress was already screeching. Her terrifying soul power undulations caused the air around her to distort violently. This is not good. Jing Hongchen exclaimed, quickly, stop her. As he shouted, he didn't conserve his powers any further. Multiple blurs of red light continued to appear in mid-air. They turned into barriers of light that engulfed the frozen gas. The rest of the Illustrious Virtue Hall members imitated him, and added even more layers of defensive barriers around the frozen gas. The regretful Dubuzi watched the frozen gas sphere. Under his command, the body sect members were quickly retreating into the underground holes that they had come from. The body sect consisted of only soul masters. They weren't like Illustrious Virtue Hall. There were many Class 9 soul engineers helping Jing Hongchen, but Dubuzi used his own strength to bear the impact of the shockwave, which also alleviated the impact on the underground base. The rest of the body sect managed to retreat, along with the corpses of their comrades, because Dubuzi resisted the explosion for them. Dubuzi was a little indignant when he looked at Jing Hongchen. Jing Hongchen also spat out some blood at this point. As their gazes met, Dubuzi revealed a mocking look in his eyes. He reached out his right hand and gave the other man a thumbs down. He only left after swaying his thumb slightly. Chase them. Jing Hongchen shouted, infuriated. He quickly turned into a streak of flowing light, and pursued the body sect. The rest of the Illustrious Virtue Hall defenders also acted quickly. Hui Yuhao had remained motionless underneath the laboratory desk the whole time. The impact of the shockwave was almost entirely resisted by the Illustrious Virtue Hall members. He wasn't struck by the shockwave to any real extent. However, he couldn't move right now even if he wanted to. An extreme chill had entered his body through his back and circulated throughout his entire body. Almost every part of his body was on the brink of being frozen. No one had seen a clear fluid descending from the sky when the Snow Empress caused the explosion. This liquid flowed onto Hu Yuhao's back and seeped into his body. The frightening explosive force had concealed everything. The Ice Empress' ultimate ice immediately protected him from the cold as it seeped into Hu Yuhao's body. She even used her own strength to restrict that chill as it flowed below his navel region. This also relieved Hu Yuhao from the freezing pain. The Ice Empress was anxious as she called out, Snow Lady, how are you?" A weak woman's voice replied, "Ice, why are you here? You're even in a human's body." The Ice Empress' voice was resonating in Hu Yuhao's spiritual world. Hu Yuhao felt weird at this point. This must be the fourth one. Brother Sky Dream, Ice Empress, Elder Yi. Now there's the Snow Empress. The Ice Empress was anxious. Don't ask so many questions right now. You're only left with this little origin power now. How is your condition? Can you recover? The Snow Empress said grievously, if not for your call, I would have infused my origin power into that explosion. In that way, I could drag more down with me. Do you think I can recover? I don't even have my body now. This little bit of origin power will slowly dissipate. The Ice Empress asked anxiously, Snow Lady, what happened? Why did you become a 100,000-year soul beast embryo? No wonder I had a familiar feeling when I saw that God-sealing altar at the Starlight auction house. You're the one that was sealed inside the altar. The Snow Empress sighed and said, aren't we in the same boat? If I'm not wrong, you only ran into a bottleneck in these recent few years. Before I chose rebirth as a human, I tried to find you and hoped to help you. But you'd already disappeared. Even those from your species didn't know where you'd gone. The Ice Empress laughed bitterly. Even if you had helped me, I wouldn't have been able to pass that stage. I know myself well. When potential reaches its limit, external help won't be useful. That's why I chose this path. Snow Empress, how are you? Do you still remember me? Sky Dream Iceworm was a little awkward. The illustrious Virtue Hall's underground base was a mess. Besides the illustrious Virtue Hall members who chased after the body sect, those with lesser cultivations remained to help those who had been injured. Hu Yuhao was among those who needed help. He was brought to a safer place after he was verified to be alive. He also acted like he was unconscious, and was thus temporarily safe. Snow Lady, let me help you to gather your origin power first. Maybe you'll have a chance at recovery. The Ice Empress wanted to use Hu Yuhao's soul power to help the Snow Empress shrink the transparent fluid that was the manifestation of the Snow Empress origin power. However, the Ice Empress soon realized that something was amiss. That was because she couldn't control Hu Yuhao's internal strength like she could before. Yuhao, do something. Come and help. The Ice Empress snapped. Hu Yuhao laughed bitterly. Ice Empress, I'm not doing nothing. I'm just scared that the Snow Empress will misunderstand if I just suddenly appear. The Snow Empress did misunderstand. She sensed Hu Yuhao's aura and asked in shock, Ice, you're residing in a human's body. How did your dignity fall to this stage? What happened? It's you. You're the one who smashed the God-sealing altar and released me. Hu Yuhao was annoyed. But you took advantage of my kindness and froze me too. Without the Ice Empress strength, I would have become a real ice sculpture. The Snow Empress was furious, you humans are all evil. I don't need your help. The Ice Empress sighed. She knew that no one could change the Snow Empress' mind when she got angry. The only way was to clarify things first. She tried her best to explain how she had met Hu Yuhao and the Sky Dream Iceworm, as well as how the Sky Dream Iceworm had convinced her to become Hu Yuhao's second martial soul. The Snow Lady's emotions were evidently surging. Hu Yuhao also took this opportunity to gather the Snow Empress' remaining origin power into a small, transparent pearl using his ultimate ice soul power under the Ice Empress guidance. He stabilized this pearl below his navel. It seemed like the Ice Empress was similar to Electrolux then. She was only left with this origin sense. She had fared better than Electrolux in the sense that her origin sense was complete and wasn't in pieces. However, the Snow Empress couldn't compare to Electrolux in terms of her divine sense. Without the protection of Hu Yuhao's ultimate ice, her origin power would have dissipated. Ice, I didn't expect that you'd choose such a path. The Snow Empress sighed after hearing the Ice Empress out. She had also calmed down significantly. The Ice Empress laughed bitterly. I had no choice. If not because I was desperate, I wouldn't have entrusted my fate to someone else. Right now, I can only do my best to help Yu Hao. I hope that he can reach that stage one day. The Snow Empress said, Sky Dream, yes, I'm here. I'm here. The Sky Dream Iceworm appeared eagerly once again. The Snow Empress said, I never thought you'd be so loyal. You found a path to success, but you never forgot Ice. Solely based on this, Ice is fortunate to follow you. You must take good care of her in the future, all right, all right. The Sky Dream Iceworm didn't rush to answer. Snow Lady, what do you mean? The Ice Empress asked, Snow Lady, are you unwilling to walk the same path as me? Furthermore, Sky Dream was the one who reserved a spot for you and allowed you to undergo fusion. But do I have a place here? If I stay, I'll only be a time bomb. Once I detonate, the two of you will also die, along with this human. Without my original body, my origin power is in an unstable state. It can blow apart at any time. After the Snow Empress listened to the Ice Empress, she was actually tempted. She had to admit that Sky Dream's path was a good opportunity for soul beasts like them who had no choice. Once Yu Hao became a god, they might be released. However, she was in a different situation from the Ice Empress. There was no place for her here. If she underwent fusion, everyone would die. The Ice Empress was speechless. Yes. She had guided the Snow Empress here, but how could she help her? She could also sense that the Snow Empress' origin power was very unstable. The Snow Empress had lost the ability to control her own origin power. If something went wrong, disaster might ensue. Sky Dream, what do we do? Think of a way. The Ice Empress couldn't help but ask the Sky Dream Iceworm, me. The Sky Dream Iceworm laughed bitterly. What idea could I possibly have? Although my cultivation seems to better than yours, my capabilities are extremely inferior to the two of you. The two of you can also clearly sense the condition of Yu Hao's body. His potential is slowly being developed, but it's impossible for him to bear the Snow Empress origin power. Is there not even a single solution? The Ice Empress asked anxiously. Sky Dream said, if the Snow Empress could control her own power and follow us in sealing the parts that Yu Hao can't absorb, she could become your martial soul's second soul ring, and there's a possibility of retaining her intelligence. However, the Snow Empress is above your level. If she fuses into a martial soul that you form, there'll be a conflict. That'll be a very serious matter. Furthermore, the Snow Empress can't control her own origin power now. If I retract my power and let the Snow Lady replace me, is it possible? The Ice Empress asked flatly. Sky Dream became annoyed. Do you think this is a game? Do you think giving up your position is so easy? Your strength has already fused with my Ice Martial Soul. Without Yu Hao's agreement, you can't retract your power. Even if you could, it would only cause the Ice Martial Soul to be crushed. Everyone will perish together. The Snow Empress' voice became much gentler. Ice, don't be like that. We've lived in this world for 100,000s of years. I've lived even longer than you. When I was first born, there weren't even humans around yet. Is death really that scary? I don't think so. Maybe it's just a new beginning. If there's a next life, I hope we can be of different genders. I'll marry you then. It's time to say goodbye, Ice. As she spoke, the Snow Lady's origin power struggled slightly beneath Yu Hao's navel. It started to swim like a fish. Yu Hao's soul power couldn't restrict it as it tried to escape his body. The Sky Dream Iceworm was stunned. What's going on? Ice Empress, you and the Snow Empress, shut up. The Ice Empress screamed, and her voice already sounded like she was sobbing. Snow Empress, don't go. We'll think of another way. The Snow Empress sighed. I have to go. I don't know how long I can suppress this origin power anymore. After I leave, all of you should leave this place quickly. Once my origin power blows apart, it'll be even more terrifying than what happened earlier. Ice, Sky Dream is a nice chapter. Be nicer to him, you don't have to go. Elder Yi's voice sounded at this moment. He finally spoke. Elder Yi. The Ice Empress seemed to have found her savior. Elder Yi, help the Snow Lady. If you can help her survive, I'll do anything. Electrolux smiled as he said, even if it means giving up your spirit. The Ice Empress was in a momentary daze. After that, she said determinedly, yes. Electrolux also looked at the Snow Empress and said with a calm gaze, you have one of the most powerful spiritual senses I've seen since coming to this world. Although that worm has a greater cultivation than you, he can't compare to you in terms of his spiritual sense. Your spiritual sense is also very pure, which is a very rare thing. No wonder you're the Ice Sky Snow Lady. The Snow Empress was aloof as she looked back at Electrolux. Human, you don't have to say such useless things to me. You're very powerful. Electrolux smiled, and the wrinkles on his face became very obvious. You can sense my power, because you're on a different level. Although I was only left with a shred of my divine sense when I came to this world, it still exists. Although your level isn't low, it has remained stagnant at that level. After all, one's spiritual and divine sense don't belong in the same category. The Snow Empress spirit jerked a little. Are you the split consciousness of a god? Electrolux shook his head and said, no, I'm just a human who didn't want to be a god. In my previous world, becoming a god signified eternal death. It seems to be different in this world. It's a pity that I no longer possess the foundation to become a god. Let's talk about your matter. Your situation is actually very simple. After you lost your body, your immense spiritual sense no longer has a body to house it. Your spiritual power can no longer contain your origin power, and it'll eventually blow apart. There doesn't seem to be a place in Yu Hao's body that can contain you, because he is still not strong enough right now. While it isn't possible to contain you now, that doesn't mean that it will be impossible in the future. That's why I'm willing to help you. I'm also helping myself, the worm, and the scorpion. With your strength, it'll be much easier for Yu Hao to advance in the future. The Snow Empress replied, if I'm going to live, I'd rather return to nature than live so pathetically. Electrolux smiled. No one's asking you to live pathetically. I've already thought about your future. But the time isn't ripe. You need to preserve your powers and prevent them from dissipating. Your intelligence will exist with your spiritual sense, my future. The Snow Empress was a little confused, and looked at Electrolux with a new sense of curiosity. Electrolux nodded, and his lips moved as if he was saying something, but Sky Dream, the Ice Empress, and Hui Yuhao couldn't hear him. The Snow Empress listened very carefully. After a long while, her confusion turned into shock. Is that really possible? She asked, and everyone could hear her. Electrolux answered in a deep voice. I never exaggerate things. I'm 70% confident that it can be realized. Furthermore, it's only your origin power that will need to be sealed. Your spiritual sense and intelligence can remain in Hui Yuhao's spiritual sea, just like the worm and the scorpion, which will allow you to consolidate your spiritual sense and help you familiarize yourself with this place. When Yu Hao's cultivation reaches 7 rings, it'll be a great opportunity to evolve. Snow Lady, I beg you. Please stay here. The Ice Empress pestered the Snow Empress, and used her long scorpion tail to caress the Snow Empress' slender thigh. That's right. Stay here. The Sky Dream Iceworm followed her to the Snow Empress' side. However, he was smacked by the Ice Empress pincer before he could get close to the Snow Lady. The Snow Empress turned to Hui Yuhao, and her icy blue eyes bore a complicated look. The Ice Empress was enlightened. I see. No wonder you chose this path. It's a pity. Electrolux spoke in a deep voice. Snow Lady, your spiritual sense is too unstable, because your sealed origin power is too immense. We must begin quickly. Although the Snow Empress was very proud, she wouldn't delay after she made her choice. She nodded and answered, I'll have to trouble you, then. Electrolux drifted to the Snow Empress and reached his right hand forward. The spiritual sea beside them started to surge as Hui Yuhao entered a trance. Countless golden spots formed a light that was as bright as the stars, gathering towards Electrolux. A long, golden staff slowly took form. Hui Yuhao felt a sudden and intense weakness, as it condensed in Electrolux's hand. Electrolux was in a different situation than the Sky Dream Iceworm and Ice Empress. When he fused into Hui Yuhao's body, he was only left with a shred of his divine sense. He needed to rely on Hui Yuhao's strength every time he wanted to exhibit any form of ability. Under such circumstances, the power that he wanted to use must be within Hui Yuhao's ability to handle. The formation of this staff had undoubtedly drained Hui Yuhao's spiritual power. Electrolux's aura changed when the golden staff entered his hands. An indescribable sense of purity and elegance made him seem like a god that had descended. A deep chant sounded out. Electrolux was reciting mystical words. At the start, his voice was very deep. However, it gradually started to echo in Hui Yuhao's spiritual sea. His mighty voice made him appear even more majestic. Sky Dream and the Ice Empress didn't move from where they were. The Snow Empress had already shut her eyes, and appeared to be sensing something. Hui Yuhao was the only one in pain. He felt weaker and weaker. To his horror, he discovered that his boundless spiritual sea was shrinking at an alarming rate. His spiritual power was also decreasing significantly. He initially felt that he already overestimated Elder Yi. But now he realized that Elder Yi was far stronger than he had thought. Hui Yuhao made such this judgment after witnessing the Ice Empress, Snow Empress, and Sky Dream Iceworm's reactions. The Snow Empress' pride quickly disappeared as Elder Yi recited his incantations. What replaced it was a sense of solemnity and esteem. How powerful would Elder Yi be if he wasn't just a shred of divine sense? Perhaps even a transcendent Doluo would be inferior to him. Hui Yuhao's belief grew despite the weakness he felt. He had realized how small he was during the fight between Illustrious Virtue Hall and the Body Sect. He wasn't at a level where he could get involved in such an intense fight. He couldn't even use his spiritual detection in such circumstances. He might be one of the best among others of his same age, but he was still very far from the true elites. Elder Yi's voice was very deep right from the start. However, Hui Yuhao's spiritual sea started to shake as Elder Yi continued to chat. In his spiritual sea, both bright and dim rays of light intersected. Hui Yuhao fell to a half-conscious state from the drain on his spiritual strength. At this point, a huge golden vertical eye slowly opened in his spiritual sea. A golden beam of light turned into a strong ray shining directly on Hui Yuhao's body. He was jolted awake by the strong light. Elder Yi's voice was blocked out by the light. The golden beam also started to emit brilliant spots that lit up his spiritual sea. This was the feeling that came from the Eye of Destiny's second mental sea. The power of destiny was keeping Hui Yuhao conscious. He still felt weak, but he managed to stay conscious. Hui Yuhao realized that Elder Yi wasn't just chanting anymore. Within the illustrious Virtue Hall, Jing Hongchen grit his teeth as he stood in the underground base. Everything in front of him was simply too startling. The entire underground base was a complete mess. Less than a third of the costly laboratory desks was still in working order, the rest had been completely destroyed, leaving all sorts of rare metals strewn about. The underground base was in tatters. Jing Hongchen was most depressed by the fact that the underground base was beginning to show signs of instability, as a result of the intense battle that had ensued earlier. Luckily, it wasn't beyond salvaging. He immediately instructed his people to solidify and stabilize the base's foundations before they did anything else. The illustrious Virtue Hall had never been hit so badly before. The material damages it had sustained would be astronomically costly, and then there was the lives they'd lost. The illustrious Virtue Hall didn't even belong to him. It was the Soul Tool research base for the entire Sun Moon Empire. It also had to bear the responsibility of developing advanced soul tools. Even with his current status in the Sun Moon Empire, he'd still be held responsible for such a grave matter. He was bound to receive pressure from the imperial family for this. Body Sect, Body Sect. Jing Hongchen was enraged. His attempt to pursue them hadn't achieved anything. Halfway through one of the tunnels, Dubuzi had collapsed the tunnel behind him while they were chasing them, which had allowed the Body Sect the chance to flee the area. Jing Hongchen immediately commanded the military to lock down the entire city. However, he knew that this wouldn't work. With the Body Sect's abilities, how would the military be able to stop them, Hallmaster? Lin Jiao's voice trembled as he walked up to Jing Hongchen. Jing Hongchen lowered his head to look at him. What's the situation? Jing Hongchen attempted to calm down. Lin Jiao lowered his head and answered, the warehouse is still fine, we didn't really lose anything. All of the advanced soul tools in storage are intact. Jing Hongchen heaved a sigh of relief after hearing Lin Jiao's words. At least there was still some good news. It seemed that the Body Sect's target had been the 100,000-year soul beast embryo, and that they'd employed their entire sect to launch a surprise attack on them. Jing Hongchen was determined to take revenge. However, Lin Jiao's next word caused Jing Hongchen to tense up. He glared at Lin Jiao. However, what? Don't stutter, speak clearly. Lin Jiao grit his teeth. His voice trembled as he said, however, test subject 1 is missing. What? Jing Hongchen felt as if his vision had suddenly gone dark. His body shook, and he almost toppled to the ground. Lin Jiao quickly moved to support him. Jing Hongchen felt as if the sky had just collapsed. He was panicking, and was extremely upset now. Repeat what you just said. Even Jing Hongchen's voice was trembling this time. Lin Jiao's voice continued to tremble as he said, Test subject 1 is missing. Jing Hongchen cursed, spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, and then collapsed into Lin Jiao's arms. What was test subject 1? It was the pinnacle of the illustrious Virtue Hall's research on soul tools. Even though it was only half complete, it was the essence of the Sun Moon Empire's research on soul tools over the past few thousand years. Jing Hongchen's face had become pale, and his eyes were now full of fear as he looked at Lin Jiao. He could get away with the fact that the illustrious Virtue Hall had suffered a great amount of damage in this incident, but he couldn't bear the consequences brought about by the theft of Test Subject 1. This was something that threatened the entire Empire's safety. He took in a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. After a moment, he asked, Who else knows about this? Lin Jiao shook his head hurriedly and said, I personally went to Laboratory 1 to check. I sealed the door to the lab and changed the door's passcode the moment I discovered that it was missing. I immediately came to report it to you. Jing Hongchen finally managed to calm himself down and said, Good job. No one else can know about this, all right? Lin Jiao hurriedly answered. Jing Hongchen's face was currently half red and half white. His hatred towards the body sect had reached a peak. His only hope right now was that Test Subject 1 was too difficult for anyone to use, that its technology was too advanced. If it were to be stripped apart, the explosive device within it would immediately detonate. This was a theft prevention plan they'd implemented, and right now, it seemed that doing so had been the right choice. Even so, the metals they'd lost were still extremely valuable. Fortunately, the illustrious Virtue Hall was greatly autonomous. So long as this matter wasn't exposed, there was still a chance that they could resolve it quietly. Jing Hongchen forced his body to straighten up, somehow managing to maintain his cool despite the critical situation. Lin Jiao, instruct everyone who was present today to keep their mouths sealed. Anyone that dares to leak news of the incident will be executed, no exceptions. Send people to every single auction houses, including those in the Empire. Have them monitor any and all higher-level auctions. If Test Subject 1 is discovered, retrieve it at all costs. Fan Yu and He Kai too are currently out for an experiment, thus they weren't in the underground base. Most of the rest were also outside of the experimentation zone. The initial explosion didn't affect them. They were all very sly, and managed to swiftly retreat to a safe place where they didn't have to participate in the battle. Some of them are injured, but their injuries aren't serious. Hui Yuhao is one of them. Our healing-type soul engineers have already checked on him. Even though he's unconscious, he isn't critically injured. He must have suffered a concussion, he just needs some time to recover. Jing Hongchen heaved a sigh of relief and said, That's good. If anything had happened to the Shrek students, it would have caused even more trouble. They have to be well taken care of, nothing can happen to them. Lin Jiao hesitated for a moment before saying, Hallmaster, do you think it's possible that this attack was some sort of collusion between Shrek Academy and the Body Sect? How else could the Body Sect accurately know the position of our underground base, especially where Test Subject 1 and the 100,000-year Soul Beast embryo were? They even managed to release the 100,000-year Soul Beast embryo. I'm afraid that there's a mole. Jing Hongchen glared at him and said, Idiot. Don't I know that? However, Shrek wasn't involved. Is your brain empty? Does anyone from Shrek Academy know where our 100,000-year Soul Beast embryo is? None of them can even enter the core region of the illustrious Virtue Hall. Furthermore, we have Hui Yuhao with us. Shrek Academy wouldn't be so stupid. They might mock us for this incident, but it wasn't their doing. And do you really think that they're that close to the Body Sect? All right, quickly pass down my instructions. We need to minimize the effects of this incident. I'll head to the palace immediately. It seems that I need to pay the Crown Prince a visit after all. It's really heaven's will. Once he'd finished speaking, Jing Hongchen quickly walked away. Even though the illustrious Virtue Hall was doing its best to suppress the news, how could such a huge matter be concealed? The matter had been made known to the entire continent after just a few days. Although the Sun Moon Empire's officials didn't reveal who the perpetrators had been, the illustrious Virtue Hall's murderous mission towards the Body Sect clearly indicated who the mastermind behind the attack had been. The entire continent shook from the news, and the other empires were jubilant at the news. Even though they didn't know how much damage the illustrious Virtue Hall had suffered, it was a good thing for them no matter what. The Sun Moon Empire's emperor was enraged when he learned about the matter, and his physical condition worsened as a result. Jing Hongchen was severely punished as a result. His dukedom was revoked. If not for Xu Tianran, his punishment would have been even more severe. The prices of advanced soul tools on the continent dropped significantly following this, while the prices of rare metals soared. The exchange of rare metals suddenly became much more prevalent. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.